Hi, you guys. Welcome back to this So Lux Life podcast. I'm Kristen Watson, your host. I'm super excited about today's episodes because it's going to change the lives of many. And I'm so excited about you guys tuning in. So make sure you leave your questions and your comments in the comment field, and we are going to get started. So, how are you today, Bobby? Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
I am doing great, and you're quite welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, definitely. So I see you have some acronyms behind your name. So just in case people are wondering, can you kind of tell us what those stand for?
Yes. The ICDAC stands for Internationally Certified Drug and Alcohol Counselor. CIP stands for Certified Intervention Professional, and CPS stands for Certified Prevention Specialist. So it's kind of a history of my background and experience over the last 21 years. I started out in prevention and then got moved into counseling, and then as things progressed, I then, due to circumstances, I started doing interventions and then started my own business about 5 years ago. So that's the purpose behind those.
Yes. So what's the name of your business that you started?
Newman Intervention and Addiction Services. We help people find we do provide prevention services as well, but the primary focus right now is helping people find treatment or and also helping families with loved ones who are struggling that are refusing help get their
Yes.
we basically go out and help the family get their willingness to receive treatment.
Okay. So you said you've been doing this for about 5 years, but in total you've been doing this like over 20 years. So how
Over 20
many
years. Yeah.
so how many families would you say you have helped over that time frame?
Well, I mean, literally, it directly and indirectly several thousand. So,
Hmm.
just through prevention efforts, we did a lot of workshops and with detox workshops as well as inpatient. I worked in one of the largest rehab centers in the country, which would had over 250 bed facility. So, and they would have several hundred people go through the program per year. So I had a lot of involvement in getting people into the program as well as through the program, and also was responsible for graduate discharge upon the person leaving the program through their discharge planning and things like that. So it's been several thousand in the last 20 years.
Nice. So, what would you say is the hardest part about, I guess, helping someone that may have an addiction? Is it identifying it or actually getting them to be receptive of the help that you offer?
It's getting the person to actually there's a number of things. People ask me what's the hardest part about doing an intervention, and my first response is handling the family. If I can get the family on the same page and operating as a unit and with a direct plan of action, we have a really good chance of getting the loved one, the addicted person, to accept help. The truth is nobody wants to be an addict. Nobody is happy. It's a miserable life. You get to a point that you're doing the drugs just to feel some sort of being normal, and
Mhm.
the person is generally looking for a way out. So if you can provide them with a way out that's face saving, where they don't have to feel demoralized or like lesser of a person for accepting help, and that help is possible, then you have a really good chance of help getting the person convinced to enter treatment.
Yeah, so can you kind of walk us through what an intervention looks like, just kind of from beginning to end?
Well, there's a I always describe it in 6 steps or 6 phases to the intervention, and there's a lot of little bitty parts that go into these 6 parts. But the first one is deciding that you're going to do something. If you have a loved one, a son or a daughter, or spouse or whomever struggling, and you've tried to talk to them, and there's been lots of fights, lots of upsets, lots of problems. The truth is there's usually a lot of division among the family, but you have to decide that you are going to do something, and against all odds you're going to change the situation. And when you can truly decide that you're going to do it, regardless of the pushback that you get from other members of the family or even the addicted person, then then you can start planning, right? And the first thing is truly deciding, and then the second thing is planning, and planning involves who's going to be involved, who's going to be, who's going to be a part of the intervention team, when it's going to be, where it's going to be, things like that. And once that's that's determined, then you go into preparation, and that means we're going to prepare ourselves for we're going to hope and pray for the best, but we're going to prepare for the worst. We're going to list out all the objections the person's going to have. We're going to solve every problem this person's going to throw at us that would prevent them from going to treatment. So all we have to do is get a yes out of the person. We're going to prepare ourselves for any possible reaction this person can have. We're going to, again, prepare ourselves for the worst case scenario. We're going to start working out logistics about when it's going to be, where it's going to be, what time it's going to be. We look at plane flights. We do a pre-intervention meeting. I have an intervention course that I like the families to do, because that also
Mhm.
gives lots of information. And then we we go over every type of scenario that could possibly happen with this person, and then we prepare for, again, the worst case, so we are not caught off guard, and then we execute. So we have deciding, planning, preparing, and then executing. Let's say, we're going to do it on a Saturday morning, so we're going to, in preparation, we're going to prepare letters to this person. We're going to basically do a pre-intervention meeting, and then we're going to do a dry run on with reading the letters, and again going over seating arrangements, who speaks first, who speaks last, how to respond in certain ways, all the do's and don'ts, and then we execute. Let's say it's going to be on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. That I like to do these 2 to 3 hours before I have to leave for the airport. I never do an intervention and keep the person local to treatment, simply because it's not a good idea. If you have to go to the trouble of doing an intervention, you don't want them going to a facility that's right there in their backyard, because
Right.
that's where all their drug using friends are. That's where, anyway, there's reasons for that. So we again prepare for all that, and then we execute. And during the execution, if it deems that this person is going to refuse, then we've already worked out predetermined consequences for their refusal. If there's not any consequences to their decision to say refusing of treatment, then the likelihood the person is going, if it comes to that, the majority of the time it does not come to that, because we don't need to go there, but we have to be prepared for that. So, and again, this is a long answer to your question, but I want to make sure that I fully answer it. So we introduce the consequences to this person and say, look, we certainly hoped you'd made a different decision, but we have to make a decision as a result of you refusing help, because usually the family is completely embroiled in the situation. They've, loaning money, loaning vehicles, letting the person stay there. It's just a constant issue. So we have to figure out how we're going to remove ourselves from this problem, because the person themselves is refusing to step up to solve the problem. Right now, there's a lot of things that can go into this. The addiction, there's usually underlying issues as to why the person became addicted to begin with, but the addiction
Mhm.
is the first thing we need to handle to be able to get to those. But so we introduce the consequences to the person. Again, after considerable effort, this could take several hours. It may take a couple of days before you would introduce the consequences to the person. And then if that still doesn't work, then you have to implement those consequences. And that's what we call playing the long game. That could take, um, you know, several weeks or months before the person actually realizes the effect. I mean, if you've got somebody living in your home and you say, look, you're going to have to move out. I'm not going to have you coming and going all hours of the night. I don't feel safe here. I feel like a hostage in my own home. I'm not going to have that. So you're going to have to go if you don't want help. And then if that doesn't happen, then you have to take the steps to get the person out of your house if they don't just leave, because and that's the hard part. Again, the bigger percentage of the people, you never have to get to the consequences, but you have to be prepared to do these things, because the addiction is controlling everything this person has. Everything. His thought process, his actions, everything. And so you in turn cannot allow that to affect you as well and control you. So that's the long and short of it, or the long. So
Yes. So it takes a family, it takes a village, is what it sounds like,
yes,
in
ma'am.
order to execute this. and to hopefully get the person to say, like, yes, I do have a problem, I'm willing to get help. So suppose this is an adult that you're dealing with and this person has like a job. Have you ever had to deal with that type situation? Because at that point they would have to leave their job to go out of state to get treatment, and who's to say what would happen with their livelihood when they come back?
Most of the time, there's a thing called the Family Medical Leave Act, and it's a federal law that was put in place in 1996 that protects people. It protects women if they're going in for care when they're pregnant. It protects people that have health issues. In most companies will meet the requirements that the FMLA will come into play. Now, if you're most employers that I've dealt with really appreciate a good employee. And if this person has a substance abuse issue and is a good employee and well thought of, that employer is going to want that person to go and get help and come back. They're not going to want to get rid of them because it's more cost effective to have an experienced person back on the job than it does to bring in a new person that then has to get grooved in and trained or used to it or whatever. So, again, if that's not the case for that employer, if they don't value you or, they're more concerned about the bottom dollars for them, then maybe that's not somebody that you need to be working for. And that's the truth of the matter. I mean, but I rarely have that happen. Most employers will say, please, but you do that after you get to the facility. You don't do it before because, it's just something you work out. Hopefully, I had an executive once that was, he was a high level executive, very high functioning on his job and very capable guy, but his family insisted that he go. And, but that was his excuse. Well, I don't want to go because I'll lose my job. Well, do you want your job or do you want your family? That was his 15-year-old daughter telling him that. Do you want your job or do you want your family? Because if you don't go get help, we're done. I mean, and I'm telling you that I'm speaking for mom because she's not able to, but I'm your daughter. I love you. I want you in my life, but I'm not like this. And so you can go talk to your boss if you want to, but if you're going to come right back up here and you're going to have to answer to me. So, and it was like, she was the sweetest little girl. And I thought, man, if that doesn't do it, then there's no hope for this guy. Because
Right. Like, I don't know what will.
yeah. So, and he went, but it was hard, but he tried to use that as an excuse. But of course, his employer was like, no, go do what you got to do and come back. We want you back. So, and he got his job back and everything was fine. So, he didn't lose his job, but I'm just saying he was able to come back and resume his position. So,
Yes, and I could see how some people would probably say, well, I don't want my job to know that I have this problem. I don't want them judging me or maybe potentially firing me because I am trying to go seek help. What advice do you give to someone with that mindset? Like, I'm embarrassed. I really just don't want my job to know I want the help, but I don't want my job to know that I have a problem.
well, the thing of it is that it's all confidential. It's this is a confidential. It's confidentiality laws, and it's a very serious offense to violate those. And you also have uh, companies that have HR departments that have employee assistance programs. And that's specifically what those are for. And so they're there to help you. They're not there to hurt you. That's what they are there for. That's their sole purpose. So you get with the treatment center, you work out an approach to the, correct person within the organization, and it's all kept confidential. And the other thing is a lot of people, it's a mindset you have going prior to, but I've never had anybody go in and look down upon somebody who goes and gets help and handles an issue such as this. They're usually hats off. They get saluted. They're like, much respect. Thank you for doing that. We really admire you for that. So.
So typically, how long are they gone? Like, once they get on the plane, they leave and go get treatment. How long does it usually take that treatment to be effective for them to be able to come home?
The longer term programs are better. I mean, it takes, unfortunately, 28-day programs only exist because that's all the insurance typically wants to pay for. Now, they're also realizing that that's not necessarily, it's not because it's successful. There's also, if it's alcohol or if there's benzodiazepines, which are like Xanax or Valium or some sleeping pills, they also require a medical detox. So that would be prior to going to, you can't just cold turkey those things. So you have to, meaning you stop abruptly, you have to be tapered off medically. And so you would then consider that. And, but, again, the longer term programs are better. I mean, I would, it's 2 to 3 months or longer are the better ones. And why, I always tell people, look, you go to some, I'm only saying 30 days. Well, okay. What if you're not, what if you haven't handled everything you need to handle in the 30 days? What you're about to do is give yourself a very small chance of success. And and so you've wasted that time. Essentially, you go in there and you're wasting your time. It's like, studying for a test and not really studying, and then going taking the test and you're failing. Well, you just wasted all that time. So it doesn't make any sense, especially when everything that matters to you is hanging in the balance. So why not make the best of it?
Right. So I'm going to kind of shift gears here to talk about teenagers and adolescents that may have, drug problems. So, what are some ways that parents can identify that their child has a drug abuse problem?
Well, you can always tell by their friends that they're hanging out with. If you think that their
Mhm.
friends are kind of shady, then and not necessarily of good moral character, and not purpose driven. Like, okay, I want to, with a goal, and I'm driven to do certain things with my life. Then it's probably a good indication of what mindset you have with um, your child. And also if they become introverted and they become like, so where they're letting other areas of their life and other interests of their life and the family involvement and being around things that they normally would used to like to do. I mean, kids change over time as they grow up, but at the same time you can tell, and particularly if kids become very critical and kind of
Mhm.
like um not hostile, but like antagonistic, or they just become, like
Like defensive.
defensive. That's an indication of something's going on, that that they're doing something that they probably know they know that they shouldn't be doing. And then the trick behind that is being able to be a line for them to be able to sit down and talk to them, in a caring manner, but also in a firm manner, to where you're a safe terminal for them. They can say anything to you, and you'll be willing to talk to them about it, not preach to them or not scold them, but where they can come to you. They know that you're a person that you can come to, and you've got their back. But at the same time, you have a good moral compass, and are going to set a good example, and you're going to help them and guide them in the right way. But
Yes.
and I always take no crap too. We're not doing that. I mean, I tell my son all the time, we're not doing that. That's I got it. Maybe I didn't respond the right way. Maybe I didn't. And I get it. I'll try to correct that. But trust me, we're that what's going on right now. It ain't happening. So, and he knows it. And sometimes I can just say his name, and he'll instantly go, okay. I don't have to come down heavy, because but I would be prepared to if I needed to, because
Mhm.
I anyway, I want him to enjoy life. I don't want him to I want him to want me to be around. I want him to be like, when I come home after I've been gone for a couple of days, I want him to, hey, how's it going? I want that type of response from him. I don't want, oh my gosh, dad's home type of thing. So
Right.
you know
Yeah, I think a lot of teens and adolescents, they're afraid to have those conversations with those parents just because, they're kind of afraid of what the parent might say or what may happen. But I think we as parents do, like you said, have to let them know that they're comfortable and able to communicate with us no matter what it's about. Even if like your friends are doing drugs, feel free to come talk to me about it. Let's have a conversation
yeah.
before you go out here and try this. What is the most common drug abuse that you've seen in teens?
Well, today is, marijuana is a big issue, and with the legalization, medical marijuana becoming more prevalent, as well as it being more now recreationally. But and again, people get into the argument about, well, alcohol is legal, and alcohol is a bad example, because it kills more people every year than everything. It kills, like, the number used to be over 500,000 people. a year due to the alcohol related accidents or health issues or whatever. But so you know anytime you're abusing substances, particularly at a young age, it's just a bad indicator. I mean, it's just not a good. Um, it's just not. I don't know how to. The words I'm looking for are. It's basically there's something else going on that why you would want to alter your state of mind. And you're talking to somebody who started drinking when he was like 11 and 12 years old. I
Oh,
wanted
wow.
to. So 11, 12 years old, I started smoking marijuana when I was later, I was like 16, 17 years old. And then I started doing it, progressively got worse from there. But, um, it's just your sights are set on the wrong target if you're feeling like you have to get inebriated for any reason, you know,
Hmm.
consistently anyway. I mean, you can say kids will experiment, but, and maybe once or twice, but honestly, if the kid's got the right direction, he's not going to want to uh, be intoxicated or, you know, be under the influence of anything. So,
Yes. So, at what point does alcoholism become abuse? Would you say it's someone that's drinking daily, or what point does it cross that line of abuse?
well, obviously, if you're under 21 years old, it's abuse. I mean, you're drinking alcohol;
Yeah.
it's illegal. So, and there's the age limit on marijuana. So, if you're doing anything and you're not of age, then it's abuse, right? And even one time would
Mhm.
be, in my opinion, is abuse. But um, and not to get into an argument about it with anybody. I mean, the truth is that why, it's illegal. There's a reason. There's a age restriction on it, and but unfortunately, what the mindset is, the people being irresponsible. I get told all the time, "Oh, he was just smoking marijuana." Well, today's marijuana is not the same marijuana as it was when I was smoking it, even, and more kids are creating going. I know people that are going psychotic from smoking marijuana due to the potency, due to the
Mhm.
chemicals that are in it, also the fact that they're putting it in vapes, which is also a big problem. So the tobacco companies, the people don't realize it, but tobacco companies are the ones behind the vapes. They're also behind the legalization of marijuana because now then they built these. So it's all geared around making money, and they are targeting youth as they always have. So anyway, it's all about the money. It's not about what's cool for the kid. It's all about who's going to make the most money off of it. So
Right. And they don't care who they hurt or who they kill
nope.
in the midst of it. So, as far as like an adult goes, like when do they cross the line of being like abusing alcohol? Like, say somebody drinks a bottle of wine a day. Of course, that's a bit excessive. But, I know people that have a glass of wine every single day. Um, just at what point does it become abusive? Is it when you're letting it affect your day to day, or I guess when health issues arise? Because some people may have a problem, but honestly don't even know that they do or think that they do.
Well, if it's starting to affect other areas of your life, I mean, moderation is the key. I mean, in other
Mhm.
words, like if you're having a glass of wine and you wake up the next morning and you feel refreshed and you're on point and you're going about your day and you're getting your daily battle plan done or whatever you want to call it, your things and your own focus to you've got a purpose and you know then probably not an issue. But I had a friend of mine who was very career oriented military guy that I lived with, and I use this as an example a lot. But he asked me one time, because he would have barbecues and he would get too drunk. I mean, past the point of like you drink way enough a long time ago, but his wife would stay sober. They had a small child. He was like career, family. He was very like he had a plan, and you could tell that he had a plan. And but at the same time, he asked me once. He said, "Do you think I drink too much?" I said, "Well, if you put everything that matters in one hand, your family, your career, your health, and then you pick alcohol over those things, then yeah, you got a problem." The unfortunate part about it is people. It's a gray area, and people cross the line a lot sooner than they're across the line before they know it, and then it's too late. So, um, you know, it's one of those things to where you dial it in to where people. I mean, honestly, going out and having a glass of wine is. or even a cold beer is not. I mean, I don't advocate for this, and maybe I'll have a cold beer every 6 months or something like that. But it's never more than two or three, and I'm out taking precautions. But I didn't do that for years after I stopped. I don't get drunk. I don't get inebriated. I don't have the intention of doing that. It's not any different to me than drinking a soda pop, and I don't even drink those. So, it's probably. More, it's probably less damaging than a soda would be, but as far as that goes, as far as I don't know that's scientifically proven or not, that's my own theory justification or whatnot. I don't drink, I drink a good cold beer, I mean non-alcoholic beer or whatever, but I don't, I have my attention on other things. I want to wake up early in the morning, that type of thing. Again, I'm giving you long answers to your question, but so.
Yes, I appreciate it. They're so helpful because I know so many people have family members that are struggling. And what's the first step? I guess contacting you would be first. If someone is listening and they think like, hey, maybe this is something my son needs. How do I contact him? Can you kind of walk us through that?
They can reach me at my website. I mean, I'm on Facebook, Newman Interventions, as well as Instagram services. Newman, it's backwards, but anyway, Newman Services. But and then also they can reach me at 866-989-4499, or they can go to my website at newmaninterventions.com.
Hmm.
Excuse
So
me.
I want to go back to something you kind of stated at the beginning. When someone does sign up for an intervention, you kind of get everyone together and tell them, I guess, some things to say. Do you ever have the person that's in question, feel attacked? That this whole I'm picturing in my mind like you come, the whole family is sitting around, and we call the person in the room like, "Hey, we're here, like we're all gathered here for you."
Yeah, well, that they do get, and we try to mitigate that or lessen that as much as we can. But it's also pretty, you see somebody walk in and it's like, if it worked any other way statistically, like if you could do it 100 times and there was a way that you could say, hey, Billy, I'm going to come over and talk to you about your drug problem, right? And we're going to bring grandma and Aunt Billy and, Aunt Sam, Uncle Sam, or whatever. And, what's the first response he's going to say? He's going to say, he's going to be gone. He's going to say, nope.
Mm-mm.
Sometimes we only have, so we kind of have to like do that. And we try to, again, lessen that as much as we can. But, my response is, we used to kind of response with, to be, I can't believe you guys would do this to me.
Right.
You know, that's like what they would say. And what the response to that is I can't believe that we're having to,
Mm.
but we're willing to because we care about you. We love you, you know,
Hmm.
and then they usually want to play the blame game of, well, you did this and you did that and you said this and you said that about all the things. You know what? And I try to get them alone. I said, look, man, I mean, this is obviously a very upsetting time and people are frustrated and things have happened and people have said things. But do you know of anybody that ever speaks sanely when they're upset? No, people say and do things that they're upset. So they say and do things that are very frustrating. So that's why we're here now trying to make this as, just so we can solve this problem, we can get on with our lives and we can all, rest easy tonight. You can start feeling better. That's the type of discussions and scenarios that we go over in preparation for this person, those exact things that you're saying, because they're very common. And,
Hmm.
I always, the truth is most people will be very appreciative. They, at the end of the day, regardless of it. And honestly, I would rather have somebody yelling at me than I would be trying to tell me everything that I want to hear. They're going to try
Hmm.
to sell me something. You can tell that it's all sounding great, but you can also tell, okay, well, we're going to move, you start asking for a commitment out of them and they become very evasive. Right. And meanwhile, they're agreeing with everything you're saying. Well, that person
Hmm.
is less likely to actually agree to get help than somebody who's yelling at you going, because you're getting some what we call the needle is moving when when they're yelling and they're reacting. They're, I've even had people go, uh, "What? I'm not going anywhere. Where do you want me to go? And how long do you want me to be gone?" And that tells me in the back of my mind, this person is about to say yes, even if they're screaming it. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going there. Blah 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 blah. And the next thing you know, they'll just flip. They'll say, we can hopefully say something that in their mind would make it okay for them to agree. And I've had people that literally have had knockdown dragouts for 8 hours. You know, and I mean, two brother. It's a family up in New Jersey, and there was two brothers and three sisters, and the guy was, the addict was a military guy. He was special forces, and he was trained. But they would go at it, but he never did anything to try to hurt his brothers. And he could have, but he didn't. But they tore the banister off their stairwell. They punched holes in the wall, and and all kinds of stuff. But after 8 hours, this guy finally said, "Okay, I'll go." And not
Oh,
only that,
wow.
he drove us to the airport. He got his car and drove us to the airport, which is like, because we couldn't get a flight out that night. I like to leave immediately, but it went on for so long that there was no flights, and so we had to wait till the next day. He showed up the next day, and and wanted help, but we had to be willing to confront that storm, because deep down the person really wants help. So
Mm-hmm.
there's different people, you know characters of people that get into this trap, and the ones that are, again, they're emotionally invested. When they respond negatively and they try to push back, that's not really them doing it. It's the addiction and what I
Mm-hmm.
call the gorilla on the back. The gorilla on the back is wanting to control everything, and they're trying to push you back. Well, we have to be willing to confront that. So, and then we can come out on the other side victorious. And I don't know of anybody that's gone through an intervention successfully that accepted help, even though it was noisy and they might have put up a fight. They in the back of their mind, when they're by themselves and nobody's around, they think about what happened, and they appreciate the people that were willing to step up and help them. They're
Mm-hmm.
always appreciated. They're thankful, and they're going, you know what? I'm so happy that my family did that for me. So
Yes. And what are your thoughts on, have you ever had to intervene on someone that was abusing medicine that was prescribed to them?
yes, I've done that with a guy who, several people actually, but the one that comes to mind is he was a guy that was a teacher, and had been through school, but he had 5 different prescriptions for, had Adderall, he had pain relievers, he had muscle relaxers, he had all kinds of things, and he was abusing them, and his mother finally, his brother had OD'd from heroin a few months before, and then he had 4 years in teaching. He was doing the student teaching. So he went through college, and now he was doing student teaching. Was about to get a certificate, and we did the intervention, and the mom finally, after it was deadline, we were running out of time. The mom got up and just told him, said, "Look, if you don't get on that plane with him, you don't have to worry about your job. You don't have to worry about your wife. You don't have to worry about a place to live, because number one, I'm going to be down there at the school tomorrow telling them what's going on with you.
Oh,
And
wow.
two is she's going to divorce you and get a restraining order. She's going to file for a divorce, get a restraining order where you can't come home. We're done. You can either do this and get back on track, or we're finished, because we're not going to step back and watch you destroy yourself, and because you're destroying everybody else around you. And I just lost a son last November. I'm not losing another one." And he told me, we got on the plane. He finally, but at the same time, we went on this for like 6 hours. He would stand there with his hand on the door to where he could walk out. He left once, and I followed him and went and talked to him, and he came back. Right. He wasn't going, he didn't have anywhere to go because he was on foot, but he came back. He stood there with his hand on the door to walk out the room for 3 hours and never stepped through the door. So those are the type of signs that you can see. This person is actually putting up a fight, but at the same time, deep down, he really wants something to change.
Right. He
All the
really
signals
wants to
are
help.
simple. Yeah. And he did. But he told me, he said, if my mom hadn't stood up like that, and said that because he knew she would meant what she was saying. She was like,
Mhm.
"I'm not fooling around here," and he said, I wouldn't have went. If she hadn't have said that, I wouldn't have went." So
Oh,
and
wow.
that particular situation too, and then there's been others where I've actually worked with families that, we try to change up the interaction. Like if the one member of the family is really hardcore and really abrasive, I try to have them have a softer side. If the person is pretty soft and passive, I want them to be a little bit more firm, because then the person themselves, that whole dynamic is used to operating a certain way. So we can kind of throw off, and we change it up a little bit to where we can have a different effect, and the person can see for themselves, this is it, it's things are changing, and this is not the
Mhm.
same old. So
Yes, I love it. You have been very informative, and I hope if anyone is listening and you're dealing with a family member or a loved one that is struggling with drug abuse, please contact Bobby. Contact him so he can get you guys the help that you need. As you can see, he knows what he's talking about. Is there anything else that you want to leave us with today?
Yes, I do. And it's never too soon to do an intervention. Even if it's not a full-fledged intervention with a professional, there's our steps that you can take to stop the destructive behavior. Why wait until something bad happens before you decide to do something?
Mhm.
It's never too soon. It's always too late to do an intervention.
That's good. So, one more time, just let them know how they can get in contact with you.
They can reach me at 866-989-4499, and one of my staff will answer the phone, or you can go to newmaninterventions.com, which is NEWMAN interventions with an S.com, and fill out a form, or there's a number there. You can call us there too as well.
And you work all over the US, correct? Or are you just restricted to a certain area?
No, I go all over the country.
Okay, nice. So no matter where you are, he will travel to you and get you and your family the help that you guys need. I appreciate you so much, Bobby. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes.